Okay, so just a little recap of what we've done so far in the third chapter. It's called Karma Yoga, and these are the topics in the third chapter: confusion, then work with detachment, cycle of sacrifice, setting the right example, and lust, the last section of the third chapter. So we've done so far the first three sections, and we're going to enter the fourth section today, which is Nishkama Karma Yoga, to set the right example. Who can tell us in Satyuga what was the way to perfection? Which yajna? Just unmute yourself if you know the answer.
Meditation.
Which yajna? Sorry?
Meditation.
Dhyan yajna, yes. Then Treta Yuga?
Treta Yuga, Yajna, austerity. Yajna.
The fire
Havan
sacrifice.
Dwapara Yuga?
Dwapara Yuga, deity worship.
Deity worship. Or which kind of yajna? There is a name?
Deity worship.
Paricharya. And then Kali Yuga?
Kali Yuga, Nama Sankirtan. Congregational chanting.
Sankirtan
Hare
yajna.
Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna,
So
Hare Ram.
anybody asks you which kind of yajna in Satya Yuga?
Satya Yuga is tapas, austerity.
What yajna? So let's know the name.
Dhyan yajna.
Dhyan yajna. Treta Yuga.
Havan yajna.
Havan yajna. Dwapar Yuga.
Parichay.
Paricharya yajna. And then Kali Yuga.
Sankirtan.
Sankirtan yajna. Wonderful. And we saw in the last class a small little clips of videos for all of these, and how in the Kali Yuga we also do all these, kind of yajnas, but they are perfected with the Mahamantra only. All right. So let's keep going. There's a link between the third and the 10th and the 11th verse, two results of sacrifices. One is fulfilling all material desires, and then purification of the heart to elevate one out of the material world. And we saw how satisfying the devtas, they also then satisfy us. And the way to satisfy them, Devan Bhavayan Tanena is fasting, yajna, havan, pilgrimage, worship, recitation of mantras, and then Ishtan Bhogan hi vo devo dasyante yajna bhavita. So having been satisfied by our yajna, they are also satisfied and they give us what we want. But the one who does not perform this kind of yajna, yo bhunte stena eva va, eva sa, meaning they are only thieves, right? All right. And Ishtan is what we desire, Bhogan is the necessities, and the demigods fulfill all of these once we do our part. But the Devtas being pleased, they can release our bodily necessities, but Krishna being pleased gives himself to his abode to his devotees. We also saw this last time, and one of the verses from the Bhagavatam, beautiful verse, how we discussed how there's 7 kinds of rin or obligations that we are bound by. But a person is not indebted to all of these once he sincerely starts to take shelter of Krishna, who is the Lord and who, once satisfied, can satisfy all these other beings. 13th verse, how people who don't offer bhoga first to Krishna without offering, people who eat, what are they doing? They're only eating sin. This is what Krishna says. The devotees of the Lord are released from all kinds of sins because they eat food which is offered first for sacrifice. Others who prepare food for personal sense enjoyment verily eat only sin. And Krishna is not only the giver of food, he's also the honorer of food. So that's how we offer everything to him before we honor it. We take prasad or remnants. And we heard the beautiful song by Bilva Mangal Thakur, How Krishna is Also a Thief. Various aspects of beautiful song written by Bilva Mangal Thakur, how when we are surrendered to Krishna, he also steals away all our sins. He steals away the clothes of gopis, he steals away gopis' hearts and our hearts, like that. Such a beautiful bhajan that we sang together last time. So then we also did the cycle of sacrifice, which was the 14th and the 15th verse. And we saw how, come to the cycle of sacrifice, how from the Vedas which are coming from the Lord, and then from the Vedas, prescribed duties are given, and people perform their sacrifices according to their duties. And because of the yajna or the sacrifices, the rain is provided. Because of the rain, we get food grains, and the food grains, the living beings subsist on the food grains, and then the living beings offer the same food grains back to Krishna. This completes the cycle of sacrifice. And then we did the 16th verse where Krishna says, my dear Arjuna, one who does not follow in human life the cycle of sacrifice thus established by the Vedas certainly leads a life full of sin. He uses the word Mogham Partha Sajivati, meaning such a person is living selfishly or uselessly. Such a person lives in vain. Okay, we'll come to today's class and we'll start with the new section, which is Nishkama Karma Yoga, to set the right example. Anybody can tell us the definition of Nishkama Karma Yoga?
Mataji, shall I try?
Yes, please.
Yeah. Do your duties without expecting anything in return. In the dedicate to Supreme Personality of Godhead.
Wonderful. So you covered all the three aspects, the three words in Nishkama Karma Yoga. So Nishkam is without any expectation. Karma is do your actions or your duties, and yoga connect them with Krishna. Anybody else who can give the whole definition? Capture all the three words, Nishkama Karma Yoga.
Mataji, can I try?
Yes, please go ahead.
This is Nishkam Karma Yoga would be when we do our actions without expecting any results from them, and we offer them to Krishna. So Nishkam is without expectation, karma is do our duties, and yoga is offering it to Krishna.
Perfect. And also we can include one more aspect, which is in full knowledge. And what is the knowledge? That we are not this body, we're the soul. And as part of the soul, we're connected with Krishna, right? So we are eternal servants of Krishna. So that makes it a perfect definition of Nishkama Karma Yoga. And Krishna is saying, do your duty. He has been talking about do your duty, be detached, right? Don't expect anything in return. So even if you have material desires, then do which kind of karma? If we still have expectation, then still do karma, but which kind of karma is that?
Karma Yoga.
Karma Yoga is this, Nishkama Karma Yoga, same thing.
Karma Kanda, Mataji.
Karma Kand.
Karma Kand.
Yes, still do Karma Kand, because at least you'll be within the restrictions or within the boundaries of Dharma, right? And we took example of how a person wants to attain a lot of wealth. Okay, at least follow the Vedic principles, maybe offer all your, puja, yajna to Kuvera or some of the demigod, which is prescribed, a particular puja with which you can get some wealth. So follow the Vedas within the pressings of Dharma, do Karma Kanda to attain your material desires. But if a person does not have material desires, now the section is still do Karma Yoga. It is not that now I can renounce and go to the forest. Still do Nishkama Karma Yoga to set the right example. So this is the section we'll do today, 17 to 24th or 25th verse, where Krishna says, perform duties to set correct example for others. It is better if one performs his duties without fruitive desires or attachments, as did King Janaka and as does Krishna. Two examples Krishna will give of these two personalities. One should act in this way to set the correct example for others. And let's just jump into the verse 3.17. You can open your Bhagavad Gitas also if you want. We'll sometimes read from the purport too, which we'll do
Mataji,
today. Yes.
yeah, in the knowledge of, I missed that word. Nishkama Karma Yoga definition. Mataji.
Okay, so Nishkama Karma Yoga again. Do your duty without expecting anything in return. And then yoga. Offer it to Krishna with complete knowledge that I am a part of Krishna. I'm soul, I'm not this body, I'm soul. And as
Oh.
soul, I'm part of Krishna. And being part of Krishna, I'm eternal servant of Krishna. That's complete knowledge.
Got it, ma'am. Thank you.
Mhm. Okay, so let's look at the 17th verse. We recite it first. Krishna says, Yastvatmaratireva syad atma triptascha manavaha atmani eva sa santushtas cha santushtas tasya karyam na vidyate. Let's have somebody read the translation, please.
But for one who takes pleasure in the self, whose human life is one of the self-realization, and who is satisfied in the self only, fully satiated, for him there is no duty. Hare Krishna. Thank you.
Hare Krishna Prabhu. Thank you. So, yes, tva atma ratir eva syad. For one who takes pleasure, or rati, which is pleasure, eva syad, in the self. Atma triptas, atmani eva sasantushtas. And then third, he uses atma ratis, the first line. So 17a, atma ratir, 17b is atma triptas, and C is Atmani Santushtas. So three words Krishna has used here with Atma, and we'll understand each one of them. Here Krishna is saying Atma Triptascha Manava, that person who is fully satisfied internally. Atma Eva Cha Santushtas, he is fully satiated within. For him, Tasya karyam na vidyate. For him, there is no duty. So first, Krishna is establishing the principle that for a person who is not having any expectations, for him also there is no duty to be performed. And we know there is a principle of reciprocity, even in this material world, right? If we expect something from somebody, we also need to give that person something, right? As parents, they don't really expect material stuff from their children. That's the right way. But at least when they're raising the children, they expect them to follow the right principles and moral values that they want to teach them. So there is some reciprocity. Children feel some kind of gratitude that my parents have taken so much care of me. At least I can listen to them and do the right thing. For devtas, we offer them. They expect, they are giving us so much, and they just expect from us acknowledgement and a little sacrifice from our side. So that is reciprocity. But for a person who is not expecting anything from anyone, Krishna says, for that person, tasya karyam na vidyate. For that person, there is no obligation, there is no duty. So one has transcended the realm of duty if one is self-satisfied and one is not seeking anything externally. For such a person, there is no duty. And let's see the three words Krishna has used. The three times Krishna has used the word Atma. Atma Ratir is enjoys from within. Atma Triptash is illuminated from within. This is how Prabhupada has translated also. Atma Santushtas, satisfied from within. So for such a person, there is no duty. And who can reach this stage? Jnana Yogi. A Jnana Yogi, he doesn't need anything material. He's he's exhausted with the material things outside. In fact, he doesn't even want to look at them. And he takes pleasure within. He is satisfied within with the connection that he feels with Krishna. And Prabhupada perfects this by saying, every purport we'll see how Prabhupada brings in Krishna consciousness. He brings in Bhakti Yoga, how that is the perfection. Here also, let's read the purport. The last sentence of the purport 3.17, such a Krishna conscious person is no longer interested in material activities and no longer takes pleasure in material arrangements like wine, women, and similar infatuations. So, and he says before that, his duty thus becomes self-illuminated by the grace of the Lord, and therefore he no longer has any obligation to the Vedic injunctions. Prabhupada is, so because Krishna has not directly right now brought Bhakti Yoga and himself, he once has introduced himself before in the second chapter. Who remembers? And now he's going to just, in the next few verses, he's going to bring himself again. But in second chapter, he talks about himself once. Also not as the Supreme Lord, he says, just focus on me.
Tani sarvani samyam, right?
Wonderful. Tani sarvani samyamya.
Sarvani samyamya yukta asita matpara. वसे यस्य इंद्रियाणि तस्य prajna pratishtita.
Wonderful. So that person is known to be Prajna Pratishtita, who can control all his senses and fix his consciousness on me. So Tani Sarvani Samyamya Yukta Asita Mat Paraha. Keep me as the focus of your meditation. So, but Prabhupada brings in how Bhakti Yoga is the highest, which is highest, and Krishna will come to that point. But Prabhupada, because he is so compassionate, he used to think if a person picks up Bhagavad Gita and he just wants to read one page, let him get Krishna consciousness there. Let him get Krishna's love there. He doesn't have to read the whole thing and wait till the end or in the middle chapters where Krishna speaks about Bhakti Yoga directly. Prabhupada says a person who is fully Krishna conscious and is fully satisfied by his acts in Krishna consciousness no longer has any duty to perform. Let's come to the next verse. 8.18. Naiva tasya kritenartho na kritene hakashana na chasya sarva bhuteshu kashchid artha vipashraya. Somebody can read translation.
The self-realized man has no purpose to fulfill in the discharge of his prescribed duties, nor has he any reason not to perform such work, nor has he any need to depend on any other living being.
So beautifully, Krishna has turned the argument. Such a person does not have any duty. But if such a person is so detached, there is no reason for him not to do his duty also. So beautifully, Krishna is bringing the point. It's not that if you're satisfied, you can leave everything and go to the forest. You still should do your duty. So it's a horizontal interaction Krishna is talking about. One is vertical interaction, us and Krishna, or even the higher devatas. So that is vertical interaction. Then there is horizontal interaction, us with other living entities. So this is what Krishna is talking about. Your duties towards other living entities within this world. It doesn't mean that you give up all of these even if you're self-satisfied. So although he's not dependent on any other living being and he doesn't have any duty to be performed, still there is no reason for him not to perform his duty. So naiva tasya kritenartho, that person has no purpose or artha to fulfill by doing his duty. Na kriteneha kashana, but then he has no reason not to do his duty also. Nachasya sarva bhuteshu, such a person, for all sarva bhuteshu, for all living beings, kashchit artha vyapashrayaha. He's not dependent or he does not take shelter of any other living being. So, naivatasya kritenartha, we just discussed, I'll keep going. So he's self-satisfied. He does not need anything from anyone. So he's not dependent on anyone. And here our acharyas tell us, Krishna is not talking about a brahmana. He's talking about, we're going to come to that. But who is a brahmana? He's still a part of the society because he does yajan, which is sacrifice. He does patan, which is reading and reciting the scriptures, and he does parigraha, which is give charity. So then why we'll think, how does a Brahman give charity? Because he himself doesn't have so much. And it's a really wonderful principle that if we give a real Brahmana, if we give something to a real Brahmana and for him it is too much, he'll just take what he needs and give the rest to charity to others. So that is a perfect Brahmana. But Krishna here is talking about a sannyasi or a renunciate. That for him, there is no duty. For him, he's self-satisfied and he can leave for the forest. But he should still perform. He shouldn't just leave for the forest unless he's so perfect. He's going to come to the section of Jnana Yoga also. But here, Krishna is talking about Karma Yoga. How a person should still perform his activities. For what? We'll talk about that when Krishna brings up that point. So practical application here in the 17th and 18th verses, Shastra and Guru assigns one duty according to one person's material attachments. So if a person still has material attachments, his guru, or when he's reading the prescribed scriptures, there is certain duties for that person. One is given activities so that he can fulfill his desires in a regulated way, and those duties also purify him. The only person free from duties is the self-realized man, because he has no desires to fulfill nor any purification to achieve. And we've discussed this, so we can still read it. How a Krishna conscious person is free from all other obligations and prescribed duties, save and except his activities in Krishna consciousness. Krishna consciousness purifies all impiety within, is instantly cleansed. He's fixed in identity. One becomes fully confident of his eternal relationship with the Supreme. He's self-illuminated with the grace of Lord, where Krishna says, Jnana Deepena Bhasvata, this comes in the 10th chapter, beautiful 4 Chaturshloki verses. With the torchlight of knowledge, I give them the understanding, the Dami Buddhi Yogam Tam, with which they can come to me, Krishna says. That comes later. But this is where Prabhupada is talking about not a Gyan Yogi, but a devotee who's also above all duties, but still he has no other duty except his duties for Krishna. And how he's such, Prabhupada is giving all these. So self-illuminated, loses all material interest. Such a person is no longer interested in material activities and no longer takes pleasure in material elements like wine, women, similar infatuations. Nateshu ramate Buddha also comes in the Bhagavad Gita. Free from all obligations, Krishna conscious man does not take shelter of any person, man or demigod, thus free from all obligations. Na kinkaro nayam rinicha rajan is the verse from the Bhagavatam that we saw, how he's not indebted to anybody. Okay, let's keep going. So this is the 17th and 18th. You can read, this is again summarized here. And we'll go to the next verse, which was the 19th verse. Recite this. Tasmad asakta satatam karyam karma samachara asakto hi acharan karma param apnoti purushaha. Somebody can unmute and read.
Therefore, without being attached to the fruits of activities, one should act as a matter of duty, for by working without attachment, one attains the supreme. Bhagavad
Thank
Gita
you.
3.1.
19. Thank you. Tasmad asaktaha satatam. So, therefore, while staying always detached, asakta. So, tasmad is therefore. Therefore, always, satatam is always being detached. Karim karma samachara. One should act as a matter of duty. Asakto hi acharam karma. By working dutifully with detachment, what will happen? Param apnoti purusha. One will attain the supreme absolute truth. Now again, here Krishna has not yet revealed who is that Param Purusha, who is that absolute truth. But for here, when Krishna is saying one will attain Purusha or supreme absolute truth, he's meaning for Jnana yogis, who is it? It is liberation. What it is liberation. And for Bhakti yogis, it is Krishna or abode of Krishna. So Krishna in this way is telling, do your duty. This is with the understanding of how Arjuna is taking this, right? Understanding. Even if you think you're so self-satisfied that you don't need a kingdom, Arjuna, still you perform your duty. And even if you don't need to live with your family and you can just go to the forest and be satisfied there, still you perform your duty. So this is in context to what Arjuna, his attitude or his mindset was at the moment, right? He had said this, that I don't need the kingdom. I'm fine. And I can also go to the forest and beg there and live there. But Krishna now is saying, still perform your duty. Because to this detached person, it makes no difference if he performs the duty or does not perform it. For right now, Arjun, it does make a difference, right? So he's bringing him to a point of that self-realized person who finds happiness and satisfaction within. He's taking Arjun within his heart and revealing all the happiness that he can find within himself. And by so doing, he's helping all of us. Krishna is here to protect us from the vices outside and take us deep within. You know, when we hear our Gurujana saying, find your love and satisfaction within, this is what it is. And Krishna is explaining all that here. Just give me 1 second. If you guys can mute yourself. Little background noise. Tasmad asakta satatam. Therefore, always being detached, perform your duty, prescribe duty by acting with detachment, you will attain the ultimate absolute truth. So, some people say, okay, I am fed up with all this material activities and I want to leave everything and I want to take to spiritual life. This is what Arjun's mindset was also, right? I can go to the forest and I can beg over there, but he's still so attached, right? Because of pain and frustration, he wants to leave and go. So frustration with material life is not a sufficient qualification for spiritual life. There must be a positive attraction for the Supreme Lord also. And the positive attraction is demonstrated by sustained commitment. Are we just frustrated with material life? That's why we're coming into spiritual life. Some people, for most people, that is the foundation of coming to spiritual life. For most, because Krishna says this is dukhalaya. When people get frustrated and they are, no longer they can take it. Okay, why is this happening? And they come to spiritual life. But then to stay for a sustained commitment, there has to be a positive attraction also. Otherwise, people they come to spiritual life, they have some deep rooted desires and they're frustrated, and then by the mercy of the Lord, those desires are fulfilled, then they go back into the material world. So there has to be positive attraction, and that is what Krishna is also inculcating in Arjuna. And bringing us also to a point where we have this beautiful attraction for Krishna, so that this is what my life is. This is the spiritual life, it is what it is. And in the material life, because I'm here in this body, I have to do those duties, I'll do them. But my primary focus is Krishna. Yes, Sonia ji, you have a question?
Mataji, just like I'm trying to connect this in our everyday life, this particular, because it's so beautiful and it's so helpful. But I wanted to understand that what I'm thinking is right based on this verse. So sometimes in our life, when things they don't go our way, the results are not really the results, but we are expecting something to go in one way and they don't happen in that way. Or it could be, there could be things that we feel like I should not be the one doing this, but because of XYZ reasons we have to do them because they fall under our purview of duty. Would you consider these as examples related to this, that we should offer that to Krishna thinking that this is my duty and I should not be thinking about the results, or I should not be thinking the after effects or the consequences of doing this? Because, for example, like, I'm a daughter-in-law, so I have to, do XYZ things, even though in my mind I would be like, okay, maybe this is not the right thing to do. Would you consider these as examples related to this verse in our everyday life?
So if we come to, particular examples, it's a little difficult because if you feeling is one thing, and what is the right thing to do according to the scriptures or guru or sadhus is another thing, because our mind is such, it is also material. It can influence us in the wrong direction. So the right way to decide that is this for me to do, is this my prescribed duty, is take shelter of Shastra, Guru, and Sadhu. These three, any one of them or mix of them, will guide you correctly in particular situations also, what is the right thing to do. So because our mind, okay, this might not be the right thing for me to do, but because I think it is prescribed duty, I should do it. So the mind plays tricks according to which mode we are in, mode of passion, ignorance. And through the day, it's never that we're always in goodness. We can be in mixed modes also. So we cannot rely on our own mind, which is material. So these are the three that we should take guidance from.
Thank you. Thank you, Mataji.
Thank you, Mataji. Good question. So we'll keep going. And sustained commitment for a devotee, we'll see in devotees' life, there are devotees who have been in the mission serving Prabhupada and gurus for years and years and years, whatever come may be, whatever difficulties may come, whatever contradictions one might have with others, but their commitment is shown to a particular service, to gurus and to Krishna by their sustained commitment. Okay, this is one service that I really want to do for Krishna, and Krishna also gives his mercy and grace. But because of situations that that person is like this, or he said something, she said something, or this is not the right environment for me, people just give up their seva. And that shows that the positive attraction is not yet developed. Positive attraction for Krishna is seen with sustained commitment. Only that is one of the major factors. Okay, let's keep going. Acting as a matter of duty without being attached to the fruit under proper guidance, and acting as matter of duty, which leads to perfection. You can read all these graphs and notes. Srila Prabhupada's purport: devotee is making progress because he acts for Krishna. Example for Arjuna: to be a good man or a non-violent man is a personal attachment, but to act on behalf of Supreme is to act without attachment for the result. This is perfect action of the highest degree recommended by the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna. Action in Krishna consciousness is beyond good and evil and Vedic rituals because they're done for purification. But action in Krishna consciousness is beyond all that. Action in Krishna consciousness is transcendental to the reactions of good or evil work. Let's keep going. The next verse, Krishna brings in one example. So in Arjun's mind, he's thinking, all right, if Krishna is talking about a person who doesn't have any desires, he's still doing his duties, and he still attains perfection. Being in this world, he's attaining perfection in spiritual life also. And maybe for a Kshatriya, does that really happen? I've seen Gyan yogis leave for the forest and they attain liberation. But for people who are in this world, does this really happen? Do they attain perfection? And Krishna is bringing a live example now. So he says, Karmaneva hi samsiddhim asita janakadayaha lokasangraham evapi sampashyan kartum arhasi. Somebody can read the translation? 3.20.
Kings such as Janaka attained perfection solely by performance of prescribed duties. Therefore, just for the sake of educating the people in general, you should perform your work. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. So, karma neva, he samsiddhim, by performing karma itself, eva is certainly perfection was attained. Asita Janakadaya. Janakadaya meaning Janak and other kings. So there are other kings also who have attained perfection. Therefore, Loka Sangraham evapi sampashyan kartum arhasi. For Loka Sangraha, for the general populace, you should perform your duty. So to set the right example, you should perform your duty. So it is the action that causes bondage, right? But it is not the action that causes bondage, but it is the inner mindset of a person. If one is detached, he will not be bound, right? One beautiful verse that has come before in the second chapter, if you're not bound, then there won't be any sin. Anybody remembers? Sin is what binds us, right? Or even doing good will also bind us. But there was a verse in second chapter. Yes, Kaya Mataji.
Sukha dukkhe same kritva lava lavo jaya jaya tata yuthaya yujasva naivam papam avapsyasi.
Wonderful. So if you're detached from victory and defeat, happiness and distress, right? You will not be bound by sin, or you will be, your mindset, if it is such, if it is detached, then you will not be bound. And he's given the example of Janak Maharaj, who did all his duties and performed all the for the Jana Sangraha. He himself was detached. He himself could have left everything, gone to the forest, but he still did it to set the right example for others to follow. So why Janak Maharaj had no obligation for Vedic prescribed duties? Because he was self-realized soul. And why still he performed? To set the right example. As king of Mithila, he had to teach his subjects how to perform prescribed duties. Another example quoted by Srila Prabhupada to emphasize the need for prescribed duties, Krishna and Arjuna fought on the battlefield to teach people in general that violence is necessary where good arguments fail. How experienced persons in Krishna consciousness act without any interest in the world, still they work to teach the public how to live and how to act. Experienced persons act in such a way that others will follow. For Srila Prabhupada, he was living in Vrindavan, right? He had perfected his life. He could keep living there, which is the perfection of one's life, right? Renounce everything and stay in a dham and perfect his own life. But he left and he came for others, for everyone, all of us. I was wondering if this temple in Laguna Beach wasn't there. I don't know where I'll be. Maybe still in some of cruising on a party. I'll be cruising one of the ships and doing nonsense stuff. So it is the mercy of Prabhupada that we are we have centers and temples around us where we can go and dedicate our life. We can find meaning and purpose and higher fulfillment in our life. Let's keep going. 21st verse. We'll do 3 more verses. Then we'll do a beautiful activity. So let's keep going. 21st verse. Yad yad acharati shreshtas tattad evataro jana sayat pramanam kurute lokastad anuvartate. Whatever action a great man performs, common men follow. And whatever standards he sets by exemplary acts, all the world pursues. So this here, Krishna is giving, first he gave an example of Janak Maharaj, how he's Kshatriya, but he's self-realized. Still, he doesn't leave his work. He still performs to set the right example. Now he's giving that general principle that whatever action a great man performs, common men will follow. See how we have heroes and role models like that. Krishna is talking about that aspect. Whatever standard he sets by his exemplary acts, all the world pursues. I remember in the 50s, people would have role models as, social reformers. Gandhiji was a role model in those times. So the kind of role model people have in a society will have that kind of citizens and how they will also be following the right path. Right now, we see how Prime Minister Modi is doing such wonderful things, and it is really elevating people. This is, I know I'm speaking politics, but in general, Krishna, this is a principle that if a person is doing the right things for the general mass and setting a right example, people, they also get elevated and they also want to do the right things. And this is very, very natural. But these days, we see how, especially in the West, also so much in the East now, who are our role models, right? Shah Rukh Khan, wonderful, such a wonderful hero. And then there could be sports people, there could be business tycoons. These are the role models people have in general these days. I want to have life like that. But then what happens, because these people themselves are not living according to the Vedic culture, they themselves, maybe they're really good in certain field, material field. People who are following them, they just fall in the ditch because they're not having the right kind of, unless one follows the Vedic culture, unless one is conscious about that higher, realm, spiritual realm, and ultimately Krishna. What happens? They themselves might be eating meat. They themselves have, heroes. In fact, in movies, they are idolized where they see a person, such a macho man, and he's having wine and different women, right? People are idolizing such kind of people. And that's how the society is becoming degraded and degraded. But here Krishna is talking about that principle where to set the right example, and he's talking about a person who sets example by exemplary work. And exemplary for us is spiritually exemplary. So power of example is far more powerful than example of power. You can understand this. People who show their power, show their influence because of the position they have, that is not the right kind of role model we should be going after. We should follow the power. There has to be a power of example, how people themselves, that's why there's a word acharya, right? Because of their behavior, the right attitude, the right mindset, people are following them. And that's when people get elevated. So Srimad Bhagavatam also affirms that one should follow in the footsteps of great devotees, and that is the way of progress on the path of spiritual realization. And we'll see Prabhupada how he gave such a wonderful example of spiritual knowledge, peace, and bliss. He attracted many people with just his loving smile that revealed the bliss that he experienced in loving devotion to Krishna. He himself was feeling that, he was all those three, right? Atma Santushta, Atma Ratir, and Atma Tripti. And because he was feeling all those things, he was connected with Krishna. Just seeing him, people wanted to follow him, right? So let's look at his most loving smile.
Mahaprabhu ki tananita gita Vaditramadyan manasorasena Ramanchakam pasutarang bhaju Vande gurosi charanadavindam Samsara dava nalavila loka
Just looking at Prabhupada, you feel so much love within, right? Because he has that love and he has that connection with Krishna. I'm wondering if we were so fortunate that we were at that time, or Prabhupada was at this time, we would so eagerly want to, and even our Gurujanas who are following Prabhupada the right way, we want to follow them. And because they're going to lead us to the right path and to perfection. Prabhupada his disciples used to say, we are so fallen, Prabhupada, we don't know whether we'll be able to reach, Golok Vrindavan in any lifetime. Prabhupada said, just hold on to my dhoti. I'll take you there. Don't worry. Okay, next verse. Krishna says, Name parthasti kartavyam trishu lokeshu kinchana nana vaptam avaptavyam varta eva cha karmani. O son of Pritha, there is no work prescribed for me within all the three planetary systems, nor am I in want of anything, nor have I need to obtain anything, and yet I am engaged in prescribed duties. So now, before he gave example of Janak Maharaj, then he gave a general principle of how people follow the works of an exemplary work of a role model, and now he's giving his own example. For me, there is no work prescribed within the planetary. Second time Krishna is bringing himself now, but still hasn't said that he's the supreme. So, but he says that in this plan, the whole planetary system, there is no duty or no work for me, nor am I in want of anything, nor have I need to obtain anything. And yet I am engaged in my prescribed duties. So indirectly saying how no one is above him, or how he's not subordinate to anyone. Nobody can tell him, oh, this is your duty. Vedas also coming from him, right? So Prabhupada has quoted Upanishad over here, and we'll just quickly look at because he's bringing the supreme position of Krishna over here. The Supreme Lord is the control of all other controllers. He's the greatest of all diverse planetary leaders. Everyone is under his control. All entities are delegated with particular power only by Supreme Lord. They are not supreme themselves. He is also worshipable by all demigods and is the supreme director of all directors. Therefore, he is transcendental to all kinds of material leaders and controllers and is worshipable by all. There is no one greater than him, and he is the supreme cause of all causes. He does not possess a bodily form like that of any ordinary living entity. There is no difference between his body and his soul. He's absolute. And his senses are transcendental, and one of his senses can perform the action of any other sense. Therefore, no one is greater than him or equal to him. His potencies are multifarious, and thus his deeds are automatically performed as a natural sequence. Come to the next verse, 23rd. Yadi hi aham na varteyam jatu karmani atandritaha mama vartmanu vartante manushyaha partha sarvashaha. For if I ever fail to engage in carefully performing prescribed duties, O Partha, certainly all men would follow my path. So now Krishna is bringing the point where he's saying, if I don't perform my duties properly, people will look at my example and they'll say, oh, if he is not performing his duty, I also don't care and I also don't want to perform my duties, and they will neglect their duties. If they don't perform their prescribed duties according to the scriptures, what will they perform? They'll be in Maya and they'll perform all kind of irreligious activities. And let's look at this. So Krishna, okay, first this is beautiful. Krishna sets the best example of dharma in Mathura, Dwarka, Hastinapur, but he sets example of prema in Vrindavan, which we can't think of following, right? He's killed demons in Vrindavan. We cannot follow, but we can follow the principles of how acharyas teach us, the demons within us, right? And he also sets the right example of prema in Vrindavan, where selflessly gopis are in love with Krishna. They're ready to do anything, even the parental love, the love of his sakhas, and the love of the gopis. Beautifully, all that. Krishna is the best example that we can follow. And then for dharma also, he sets the right example in Mathura, Dwarka, and Hastinapur, where he has to do his... See, in Vrindavan, he was really young. There were no duties for him at that time. His duties came when he grew older. According to the scriptures, as a Kshatriya, he has to do these things, and he did all of those to set the right example. So why the enlightened ones work? To set the right example, how they work without desire for fruit of action, as a duty under proper guidance. Benefits of such work, attainment of highest destination. And two examples are Janak Maharaj and Krishna. And these are the notes. Next verse, Krishna tells what will happen if you don't act in this way or if you do not follow my path. And Krishna says, Utsideyurime loka na karyam na kuryam karma ched aham sankarasya cha kartasyan upahantyam imaha prajaha. If I did not perform prescribed duties, all these worlds would be put to ruination. I would be the cause of creating unwanted population, and I would thereby destroy the peace of all living beings. Here, this is also the answer to which question of which there were 5 reasons Arjun didn't want to fight. This is answering one of them.
That if we don't do the prescribed duty, the woman will be adulterated and there will be, the new progeny will be Varna Sankara.
Wonderful. Yes, Mataji. And here Krishna is answering, it is not because you will fight or not fight. The real cause will be if we don't set the right example by doing our duty, then what will happen? Because people will see that we are running away from our duties, people will also do that. They will do whatever they want. Now, for pleasing oneself, the highest sense gratification in this world is sex. And people who get into such kind of sensory pleasure, they don't care whether they're married, not married, right? Then unwanted progeny will come. Also progeny where these kind of children are not, it's not because they're unwanted, right? They'll be wanted, they'll be loved. That is not the criteria for saying unwanted. When we say unwanted, we've done this before. We discussed how unwanted means that these children are not taught the right Vedic principles. The cycle of sacrifice is not taught. All the right moral values, they're not going to be taught because the parents themselves have not followed. So that's why they are unwanted, in the sense that they're not following, they will not also teach further. So Krishna says, he's pointing out that if he doesn't act responsibly, then others will get justification for not acting responsibly, and it'll lead to ruination. Kshatriyas set right example for protection and chivalry, and if they become neglectful towards protecting dharma, then what happens? No one will protect. Citizens, especially women, become exploited by ungodly and demoniac people. That leads to devastation in society, unwanted progeny, disastrous future generations. And what guides our actions? Protocols according to scriptures is one thing which can guide our actions. If they're not guiding our actions, then what will guide our actions? One's own sense desires or instincts. And when people don't follow scriptures, they're impelled to act according to sensual urges, the greatest being sex pleasure, which generates unwanted progeny. And why? Due to uncontrolled lust. And lust is the section which Krishna will touch in the last section of this chapter only. He describes how lust, because of lust, all these unwanted things happen. So no duty for Supreme Lord. His energies perform the duty. Everything is in him and in full opulence. All results come from him. He has nothing to achieve, yet he works to set the right example. These are notes from the purport. You can read later. This is a beautiful video that we did in the kids Bhagavad Gita class. And maybe we'll just see for a couple minutes, but because we have the activity and we won't get much time, and we also have one more verse to go. So, yeah, let's see this. We've done the
Wix,
verses.
one platform, any website, unlimited creation.
Krishna in Dwarka. In Dwarka, Krishna peacefully lies down with his wives. He rises up early in the morning, 3 hours before sunrise. The wives of Krishna are so attached to him that as soon as the cocks crow, they condemn the crowing. An ideal householder must learn from Lord Krishna how to rise early in the morning, no matter how comfortably situated one is. Early in the morning, a mild breeze would carry the aroma of Parijat flowers that Krishna would smell. The humming of bees and sweet chirping of birds sounded like the singing of professional chanters engaged in offering prayers to Dwarkadhish. Lord Krishna would then wash his lotus-like hands and feet and meditate on himself. He was teaching us that early morning hours should be utilized for meditation on Sri Radha and Krishna, which is very satisfying. After meditating, the Lord would bathe in clear sanctified water and offer prayers to Sun God. He would then offer respects to demigods, great sages, as well as the forefathers. Although the Lord is full of divine beauty, he would dress himself in yellow-colored garments and put on his necklace of Kaustuba jewels. He would wear flower garlands and smear his body with sandalwood pulp. It is said that the ornaments themselves became beautiful upon being placed on the transcendental body of the Lord. The Lord would then visit Lord Shiva's temple along with other temples. There were many Brahmanas who would come daily to see the Supreme Lord before honoring their breakfast. The Lord welcomed them graciously. His next duty was to give cows in charity to the Brahmanas. Lord Krishna used to give as many as 13,000 cows every day in charity. Each cow was decorated with a silken cover and pearl necklace. Their horns were gold-plated and hooves silver-plated. All the cows in Dwarka were full of milk due to having their first-born calves with them. They were very tame and peaceful. The Brahmanas were also given silken garments, deer skin, and sesame grains. Lord Krishna is known as Go Brahmana Hitayacha, which means that he always desires the welfare of cows and Brahmanas by fulfilling their different desires. And when the Lord saw them happy, he also became very pleased. The flower garlands, betel nuts, sandalwood pulp, and other fragrant cosmetic articles which were offered to the Lord would be distributed by him first to the Brahmanas and elderly members of the family, then to the queens and ministers. Later in the evening, the Lord would play various adventure games with his children. In this way, Dwarkadhish Krishna enacted his wonderful pastimes in Dwarka. The conclusion is that to become an ideal householder, one should follow in the footsteps of Lord Krishna as he displayed his daily activities in Dwarka.
All right, so we saw how Krishna himself, he's beyond all these duties, but he did them to set the right example for others to follow. And we'll come to our activity for the day. So we'll have groups. We'll think of two kinds of role models that one may follow. One from our Gurujanas, Goswamis, Acharyas, even Srila Prabhupada, you can think of him. And the other is one of today's business tycoon or a film star or a rock singer or a sports magnate, and they're not devotees or not following any spiritual life. So compare how one's life can be affected in terms of integrity, priorities, family life, behavior, humility, etc., etc. So you can compare and write all these points. And I will, I'm sorry, once again, sharing this.